here we go. Welcome back to Nick Landis Comic Corner, classic, less known classics. This is going to be the first of a couple of reviews I'm going to do. First up, basically, we're going to discuss a physical one. By the way, the name of this one, the number for this one is episode 254046 and Doubleshot number 2440. Now, first up we have is Jane Foster and the Mighty Thor. Written by Taryn Gerbic, who is the writer currently for Carnage and was the writer for Venom. Now she currently isn't. And the artwork. Now, by the way, this book is only just 5 issues. It's a quick 5-issue miniseries. We have Michael Dowling on the artwork. The cover art for pretty much all the issues. Most of them are Ryan Stegman, J.B. Meyer, with Mark Garcia on issue 1, on the cover issue 1. Remo Fajero Jr. on issues 2, 4, and 5. 3 is done with Laurie Martin. Mostly put, it's a team-up book between Jane Foster when she was Thor, but with basically you can also think of this as a loose tie-in to what was going on during the last set of issues for Taryn Gerbic's run for Thor, because also in the book we see the destroyed Mjolnir in this book. Yes, but though by the annual gets restored. So this is kind of basically a spin-off book of that. It takes place from it's most about Jane Foster. She's looking for Thor because Thor has gone missing. Does find him but doesn't remember him. Now, who's main villain this miniseries? And you can tell basically it's from that run because Thor's outfit. Yeah, Thor's outfit is from the start of Donny Cates when Donny Cates wrote the book, and we see her flashback to. But by the way, I should point out though, Jane Foster at this point in time, what was in fact, still currently, she is Valkyrie. Yep, Valkyrie. There's up with the Enchantress in here. It's a really fun mini series. Yes. Now, here's something you might find interesting. Marvel did this thing with the Jane Foster book, where the book itself, where it would basically like continue like through a couple of miniseries, will continue the numbering. Now, the only reason why that this miniseries exists is to promote the fourth Thor movie, Love and Thunder. Yep, that's pretty much the only reason why they put this book out. Yeah, because Jane Foster was not Thor this period of time. That's over here on the cover. She kind of is Thor, but she really isn't. But yeah, that was the only reason why that they did this. So you can think of this book as an adjacent. Now, yeah, on the covers, they do have a legacy number. Does it count for Thor? No. It actually, believe it or not, is a... Let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, it's basically for Jane Foster, for her numbering. Yeah, it's Jane Foster's 20 through, let's see, what's issue 5? '20 to 24. Yep. Yeah, in case you're curious, though, this is from the Jane Foster Valkyrie series. This was technically, in a way, I would say the 4th or 5th series featuring her, because, you see, here's the thing. Marvel, for some reason, likes to do the legacy stuff, and they do it for Jane Foster for reasons completely unexplained. Yeah, and this all started with, of course, not the My Thor book. Oh no. They started with Valkyrie Jane Foster, which was only pretty much basically like 10 issues. Yeah. And then they had like as soon as issue 10 wrapped up, which I have discussed this series, it's really good by the way. Sad ended. Basically to continue the numbering for King and Black Valkyries. Yep. And King of Black Return to Valkyries. And this did count as part of numbering. which brought it to pretty much like about 13. And then we had the Mighty Valkyrie miniseries. Mm-hmm. Yep, and that was issues 15 through 15 to 19. But that was the previous book that she had. And that's kind of the thing. Marvel did this for her. It is strange they did it for her, where this book is basically like 25 to 24, 24 of her own series. That they insist on doing this for Jane Foster, not an ongoing format, just miniseries, which is fine. Is this miniseries bad? No, it's actually really good because this book a 9 out of 10. Next up is something really exciting I really want to talk about. We have Essential Human Torch Volume 1, which collects Strange Tales 101 to 134 along with A number 2. Now, those of you curious though, what about the first 100 issues? Why aren't they in this book? Like, why is there issue 1? Well, because Human Torch is not featured issue 1. Basically, little backstory when it comes to Strange Tales. Strange Tales was a sci-fi book that was reformatted to a superhero book with issue 101. And the first annual was a reprint book. I'm not kidding about that. Look it up. It's a reprint book. Now, the whole thing with this feature was that Human Torch got spun off into this book. You can think of this as like the off-screen adventures of the Human Torch where he's not with the Fantastic Four. And this lasted for a few years. It published from the time period of, they put in this book, 1962 to 1965. Now, all the issues in this book are done by the same creative team behind the Fantastic Four. Well, Stan Lee does pretty much writing for every single issue of this whole book. Some of you might be asking, Nick, does Jack Kirby get a chance to do this book? Well, he does. One issue, issue 120. Yep, 120 is the only issue he does as the writer. Yep. But yes, now, this book in particular is noteworthy for featuring the debut of several characters we still see today, one of whom is no longer alive, sadly, and that being at the time of his death, he was known as Mach 10 of the Thunderbolts. Yep, a founding member of the Thunderbolts made a debut in these issues. Abe Jenkins, who at the time was known as the Beetle. He appeared in here a few times, and then when the feature ended, basically Human Torch is like, hey, I want to take you and drop you off in Spider-Man and make you a recurring Spider-Man villain for a while occasionally fighting the Avengers. Fight Avengers a few times. And this lasted for over 30 years until he got picked up with Thunderbolts. This book also featured the debut of two characters we still see today as recently as like a couple years ago, and that being the Wizard and the Trapster. Though the Trapster in this book is debuted as Paste Pot Pete. And currently he thinks of it as an embarrassment the fact he called himself that. And heck, they even poke fun of this in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. Where like, oh hi Paste Pot Pete. He's like, do you really want me to kill you? Yeah, because the whole thing they makes traps. And the whole thing with Paste Pot Pete, carry this pot around and a glue gun. That's Paste Pot Pete. And the way writers nowadays see it from the way they write Trapster, they think it's an embarrassing part of his career. And the other reason the Wizard and the Trapster are still around this very day because they were recurring characters in this very book, and Lee loved these characters so much, he pretty much made them basically regular villains for Fantastic Four, which they're still out this very day, while Cage found other villains, other heroes. Now, these two will be two of three future founding members of the Fantastic Four who show up in this book. There's even a guest star issue. You even have issue. We have a guest appearance by the Sandman. Yep, the Sandman. There's several one-shot villains in this book because it's the 60s. Let's have some one-shot villains. This book also basically foretell the return of Captain America. Yep, in one of the issues, we had a guy pose as Captain America, which later led to the return of the original Captain America. Now, The first issue had a debut of a character known as the Destroyer. He was the very first villain Human Torch fought, and he appeared once. The only appearance of this guy was an official story of Marvel Comics Universe. Yeah, he was just a one-shot character. So yeah. Also, the Thing was a recurring character in this book. And occasionally I remember Fantastic Four guests in this book, but issue 102 was the debut of the Wizard, aka Bentley Whitman. The Wizard would appear in a handful of these issues, of these 34 issues. Yep. Yes, of the issues published in this book, he appeared in issues 102, 105, 110, 110, 112, 118. A total number of 5 times. And they probably felt as though, like, I guess Lee probably felt that he probably liked writing this character so much, he made him a recurring villain over in the pages of Fantastic Four till this very day. In issue number 103, we have debut of a character named Zummo, an alien, who, after this one issue, would not return again until issue Fantastic Four 158, released in 1975. And by the way, this comic came out in 1962. And he appeared for the following issue for 159, and that was the last you saw of the guy. In issue number 104 is the debut of, well, Paste Pot Pete. Yep. Paste Pot Pete. And those of you curious, though, when did he become the Trapster? I think with a later appearance by the guy. Now he, like the Wizard, was a recurring character in the pages of Strange Tales. Yes, he was. Yeah, he appeared for issues 104 and 110. He also appeared in 124. And he only appeared 3 times, surprisingly. Though, for some reason, Stan Lee had him appear as a guest star, or as a cameo, in Avengers number 6. Yes, seriously. So, unlike the Wizard, who appeared 5 times, but, hey, he was a recurring villain, so, and people like him, so why not? And 105, it's Return of the Wizard. In 106, we have the debut of a character named Tara Towsome, who's an evil race car driver, who's a one-shot character. Yes, like when they had the series. We also have the debut of a character named Acrobat, who actually still occasionally appears. Oh, and this guy impersonated Captain America in one of his appearances. Yes, he did. Excuse me. He only appeared twice. He appeared in 106, 114, which this is the famous issue where he disguised himself as Captain America. He later returned in Captain America Son of Liberty number 11, a comic published in the 1990s, which was kind of the way his last appearance in present day, though he appeared as a flashback character in Avengers Volume 7, number 4.1. Yeah, it was a Mark Waid comic. It was basically timeless stuff. It was a really fun story. Yeah. Yeah, and the book itself, like when it had other American features, like, mostly put reprints. That's how we get to 110. In 107, we had the first of several fights in this book with the Submariner. Yep, the Submariner will appear in Strange Tales. You're thinking, really? Why the heck would he appear in Strange Tales for? Why not? He was appearing in Fantastic Four, so my guess is Lee wanted to give him a little more exposure, so they put him in. They had to make a guest star spots, pages of Strange Tales, which he appeared for just a couple times. He appeared in issue 107 and 125, but mostly it was 107, 125, and that was it. My guess is it was just a way to potentially boost the sales, because maybe people were not paying attention to the book at the time. Then we have issue 108, first appearance of a character named the Painter. Yeah, he is not that no villain. And after this one issue, his next appearance will not be until Web of Spider-Man number 74, released in 1991 as part of the Avant-Garde. Yes. And by the way, this one issue of Strange Tales was released in 1963. His next appearance will not be until 28 years later. We also see the first appearance of a character named Scar Tobin, who is a one-shot gangster. Yeah. In issue 109, first appearance of Sorcerer, a one-shot character who appeared for like a one-off issue. Also, occasionally, the Human Torch's girlfriend from the Fantastic Four would occasionally appear in this book as a recurring character. 110 is noteworthy for the first time we had the team up between Pace Puppy and the Wizard. Basically, future groundwork for the formation of the Final Four. And then we have a character known as the Absubsish Man, who first appears in issue 111. Who, this you might find quite strange about this guy. After this one appearance, which I should point out though, came out in May of 1963, his next appearance will not be until 2011, roughly almost 40 years later, in the book Fear Itself, The Homefront. Yes, seriously. They would have this guy make a one-off return. They would also appear in issue of Fantastic Four Volume 5 during James Robinson's run. He also appeared in Fantastic Four Snapshot and Ziggy Pig and Sally sit with the comic. Yeah, it's quite weird that we have a one-shot character making his experience in 2011. In issue 112, we have the debut of the Eel, the original Eel. And this one is sadly no longer alive. He got killed off in the issue of Ghost Rider. Yep. Now, he himself would appear more than once. Yeah, like in the case of the Beetle, the Wizard, and the Trapster, he appeared more than once. He appeared in 2 issues of this book, popped up in an issue of Daredevil. He most of the time became a recurring villain for Captain America and Defenders. Yeah. But sadly, like I mentioned, he got killed off in issue 21, appearing mostly as a zombie since then. But yeah. And then we have the Strange Tales and number 2, which has basically Spider-Man and Human Torch take on a character known as called the Fox. A character who only appeared twice ever in the history of comics. His next appearance would not be until 1994. Yes, roughly 31 years after his debut. Marvel Comics for you. And then we have in issue 113, the debut of a character known as the Plant Man. And he, like a few other villains, are still very much around. Not a really big villain per se, but he is still around. And after this one issue, he next appears in Strange Tales 121, which is in this book. And he next appears also in 2 issues of X-Men, 2 issues of Submariner, 2 issues of Captain America, 3 issues of Defenders. Actually, he returns several times as Defenders. Issue of Micronauts. Yeah, he becomes like a recurring Marvel staple. And then basically about the 90s, he's a recurring villain for Namor. Also comes part of Thunderbolts. His most recent appearance was actually, well, he was in Empire X-Men, but he also returned in the original X-Men one-shot. Which came out just last week. Yep. But what about the other issues, per se? Well, issue 114, like I mentioned, is where they had Carlos, the artist, pose as Captain America. In issue 115, we have the Human Torch fighting Sandman for the first time. I believe this for Sandman, this was his first appearance outside of the Spider-Man comic. And then later on, for some reason in the 60s, became a cage recurring villain for the Fantastic Four as part of the Final Four when not appearing with Spider-Man. And then we have 116, we have an actual, Fantastic Four villain appear in a Fantastic Four spin-off book the Pup Master, though he will later return with the Mad Thinker in a later issue. In 117, it's another appearance by the Eel. In 118, we have the return of the Wizard. In 119, we have a debut of a character who's Robbie Roaster. Real name, Wimbeg. And he appears a total of 5 times. But here's the strange thing about this guy. Okay, so his first appearance was in 1964. His next appearance will not be until 2005. Yes. Roughly 41 years after his debut appearance. Why in the world that basically Mark Millar decided to bring back this guy? I have no idea. It's one of the most strangest things. So yeah, bring back a character from the 60s people barely remember. And then we have in issue 120, we have a critical important issue. This is the first time Human Torch meets the Iceman. We also first appearance of a character named Captain Barracuda. Another not that known villain who after this one issue who popped up in Submariner, 2 issues of Incredible Hulk, issue 54, the 5th annual of the Mutants, an annual issue 10 of Vengeance of Moon Knight, A plus X number 8, and his most recent appearance was in Iron Man 2020 number 2. Yep. And in case you're curious, Iceman had previously appeared in X-Men number 5. So this is just after they had their second battle with the Brotherly Mutants. They took him on here. Of course, he later makes his next appearance in Fantastic Four 128. Now, Doris Evans, she was in fact Human Torch's girlfriend. She made her debut in 113. This is basically kind of in the way a book she started with, and yeah, she also made guest appearance in Amazing Spider-Man a few times. By the end of the book, she basically moved over to Fantastic Four. Well, later she broke up with Johnny Storm, occasionally appearing over the years. Our most recent experience was Marvel Snapshot. Yep. In 121, we have basically a thing where we have a flashback of a fight with the Plant Man. In 122, we have them take on the Terrible Trio. A group of characters from Fantastic Four, we're taking the second time a group of Fantastic Four villains had appeared in this very book. And would this be the only time they appear in this book? No, they would actually appear in 129. Afterwards, they appeared in issue Marvel 2-1, first issue Penance for Less, and Fantastic Four Entry number 1. Yeah, and the previous appearance was in Fantastic Four 23. And they appeared in this book here for 2 appearances. And these are more like sporadic characters. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. 110 in the book basically had a debut of Doctor Strange. And then 111 had another appearance by him. And then he returned in 114 and was there to 168. Now, 123 is debut of a very character who I mentioned when I talk about this one. This is the debut of Abe Jenkins, who at the time was known as the Beetle, who had this very goofy-looking costume. Very bulky. Later on, he did slim it down. But, yeah, he showed up here in 123. And he was a recurring villain in this book. Yes. Though, surprisingly, he made his debut during the last year of the book, surprisingly. Yeah. After making 1 appearance in this book. He later got, I guess that, this is my personal theory, I think that Lee must have really wanted to end this feature really badly, so the book had continued for another 11 issues before finally ending another year, but I figured though, I like the character Beetle. I know, let's have him get dropped off of an Amazing Spider-Man and become a recurring villain for Spider-Man for decades. Of finding other characters. Yes, seriously. And the Beetle is noteworthy for being the third ever villain who appeared in Amazing Spider-Man who was not a Spider-Man villain. The first one was Doctor Doom. He was the first one. Next one was Circus of Crime, who appeared in issue 16, and then 21 was Spider-Man's first fight with the Beetle, first of many fights. 124 is Return of Paste Pot Pete. In 125, it's the second, I believe, like the last fight with the Submariner in this book. In 126, the aforementioned team up between Mad Thinker and the Puppet Master. In 127, we have Mystery Villain, who turns out to be Reed Richards. Then in 128, we have, for some reason, taking on the Human Torch, Quicksilver, and Scarlet Witch before they joined up with the Avengers. Yes. It last appeared in X-Men number 7. Their Quicksilver's experience will be in X number 11, which is when the Brotherly Unions would span. So it's kind of like a one-off guest appearance by the siblings. And then 129, we take on the Terrible Trio again. And I think it was their last appearance for years. 130, take on a gang of robbers, known as the Beatles. In 131, we have another appearance by the Mad Thinker. In the second, I think probably his last appearance in the book. Then we have a character named Professor Jack show up in issue 132, who is a one-shot character. In 133, we have an appearance by the Puppet Master and a debut of a character known as the Ice Queen, who is a one-shot character. And finally, in the final issue, 134, we have a non-Fantastic Four villain, Kang the Conqueror, appear in this book, whose last appearance, no, was in that book. Really cool the fact that they took on Kang the Conqueror in his last issue. Yeah, but here's the strange thing. Kang the Conqueror had just previously appeared in Avengers 16. His next appearance will be in the third annual Fantastic Four. Yep. But that's pretty much in the way all 34 issues in a nutshell. And this book is like kind of short-ish, but despite it containing 34 issues and an annual, this book is actually really good. If you're really curious about some characters you see in current day, like the Wizard, the Trapster, and the Beetle, check this book out. You might enjoy it. I would get this book a 10 out of 10. Yep. So yeah, that's a particular view. I might hold off in our comic corner, but see you later. Bye.